We're going to call this meeting to order the Finance, Budget, and Audit on August 21st, 2017. Present are Mr. Clark, Mrs. Stickley, Mr. Mumper, Mr. Sanker, Mr. Stith. And so we will attempt to go through to put forth some of the changes to the appropriations so that some things, most things will then match the recovery plan that was submitted, and then go through some other items on here as well. Once we start with that, then we'll have some questions and some things too on some procedural things, I think, where we go from here from our committee and council and with the sitting Financial Recovery Board. So we have to try to work through how this whole process is going to be done as far as to make additional changes down the road. So anyhow, we'll begin. Mr. Stith put together a few items. Which one do you want to start with?
Sure. I'll just run down what we've got here. Cash position report, just for your information. At the close of 7/31/2017, what all fund balances were year-to-date, month-to-date receipts and disbursements. So that's just for your information. The main thing that we have here is really in two parts. The first one is a spreadsheet that shows the current total appropriations in the left-hand column of figures, and then the amount of appropriations that are in the plan. And in order to match those two together, the changes that have to be made then in that third column that says appropriation changes. That takes our current appropriations and matches it to the plan. There are some things that do not match in it. For example, the state likes to take all of the debt payments and put those under a line outside of departments at the bottom of the plan. We have to break those down and put them in each department because there's not a key for it to be paid out of. So if it doesn't match exactly under debt, that's why. Some other areas is they actually split in their financial reporting interest payments versus principal payments on any leases that we have. And we do that on the back end when we report it and we do our audit, but we don't have to appropriate it in that way. So we just have a flat lease amount for a lot of these. The biggest thing is like the radio contracts are split out in debt keys between police and fire as opposed to a separate line at the bottom. The other thing that we have is on the right-hand side, this is basically an expense report current year only as of 7/31/17. When we put this together, and it shows how much the original appropriations were, year-to-date expense, year-to-date encumbrance, the two added together, and then are there places where we are going to end up exceeding the new appropriations adopted in what we're talking about and what's in the plan? Because there were some areas of appropriations that we passed at the beginning of the year that the plan actually has less money in it than those appropriations are. In certain cases, there'll have to be some purchase orders closed out. The largest area that there's a problem with is going to be under street maintenance and repair, under fixed charges. However, the state wants to move the Duke electric bills for the street lights out of that fund, and they think that that'll correct that. So that'll be one of the areas we look at. Some of the other areas that are deficient are things that we're going to have to look at decreasing POs that are out there. Some small differences. Basically, they said if you're with $100 of it, don't worry about it. So the ones that maybe you're $10 or $50 over, their threshold for the plan is within $100. So the things that are $5 over, $10 over, that's fine. They did look through everything on this list. They did suggest some changes which were made, but basically this changes the appropriations to match the plan. And that's where this long Exhibit A comes from. Starting on the front, increasing the permanent appropriations for the first page and a half, and the second page and a half is the decreasing. And those all match that third column on your spreadsheet.
Do you have an extra one of those?
Huh?
Do you have an extra one of those? I didn't get it.
Which one? Oh, the appropriations?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought I got you over here. Sorry about that. Wondered why I had extra. We also have a list of POs that were returned insufficient appropriations. Many things that are on this list will be corrected by the changes that are suggested here that match the plan. Not all of them, but many will. The ones that don't, we're going to have to address next month. Basically, the state's going to look at all of these and evaluate the open POs that are out there and say, well, if you really need this thing or that, you need these different items that are on here, what do you have as an open PO that can be closed out? And especially the blanket POs. There are some issues of some changes that we have to make, like earnings tax refunds. Put an extra $200,000 into that. And the other thing with the plan, whenever you guys look at the plan and you see that it's about $2 million more revenue than what I'm saying we have, or what Chuck Barlow says we have, or Tim Maloney, understand that in the plan, they put in all the money that we give as tax refunds back to the businesses that we've got deals made with. Whereas according to our deals with these companies and the contracts we have with them, if they're getting 50% return of the taxes that they pay, they have to go into a separate account and into a separate fund, and we do it that way. They mix it all in, put it all as revenue, and then show our earnings tax refunds to be that much higher. So it's all a wash at the end. But on our end of bookkeeping, we need to split that out and keep that separate. So. As far as us desiring to make any additional changes, from my understanding, we have a plan and we have to stick to it. If there's something more that we need, the state has to basically say, all right, go ahead and see if council will pass changes, and then take that to the commission and see if the commission will approve it. But our appropriations and our spending have to stay within that plan, within $100.
That's one question that I think I was okay. If we do find that we do need additional for XYZ department over and above outside the plan, I'm not quite sure, I haven't talked to April yet, but what would be the procedure? Would we on council put forth an appropriation with a suggested change to the appropriation, and then council approve it, and then would we then submit it to April and Anna Mary as our guidance counselors for them to look at and then submit it to the board, or do we go to them first before we change something on council? I just wasn't sure how this change process will take place.
I would go to them first, because I'm pretty sure they have to approve whatever goes before the commission. So if we're going to go through the process of passing something, we better make sure it's something they're going to approve. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time with that. Also, in going to them, there are some things, as I'm talking to them, where they were making it sound like certain things that might be zero net change, moving from one contractual key to another, may not be as big of an issue, because at the end of the day, all the contractual total for the city is the same. But that's something also that I'm a little unclear on, because they did make some changes that were minor based on the open POs that we had. So I think that's a discussion we have to have with them, but I would have the specific list of what we are going to them for. And I think the first thing they're going to do is look at POs to close out to cover the expenses. And if that's not there and they deem it an emergency, then they'll tell us to go ahead with the appropriations, and then we submit that to them.
Because a couple things that, you know, like on some of these purchase requests here, I would, like you said, some of them will probably, you know, correct themselves, but in looking at a few things that have come up, I mean, we get a letter from the fire chief, and, you know, talking about the fire suppression units. And are those SCBA's, or are those different than that?
It's the fire gear bumper.
The what?
Bumper gear. Protective coat.
Yep.
Those are due, a lot of them are due to expire. Or have failed inspection. It's an NFPA requirement. So we're trying to set whether we can replace this year or following year. So the state, the way it is now, we don't have any bathroom seats for each person. So if we go out and we have, so it's much we get them back and wash them, because we're going to wash them, separate them. So that's what, but this is just to replace the primary set that they had, even though they were very close proximity. Expired until we could possibly pair those to a point where we can at least use them as a backup.
So the 18 that we're talking about here are to replace current ones that are ready to expire?
Correct.
Okay. And so, I mean, that would be something that's not in the original plan that could be deemed an emergency, you know, and we would, then I guess we would submit that to, I guess, April and Anna Mary first, then have our discussions with them and say, okay, we want to make this change in appropriations so that we can present it to the board so that can happen. Same thing too on the police end of things. I mean, they were about their, you know, as far as the new folks coming on, that there's no money, not enough money to outfit them in their uniforms, and that was another thing that came up as far as in his letter. You got a copy of that too, I think.
Not printed out, but yeah.
Yeah, but I was just saying, if that, in order to get at least the ones fitted and on the street that we are in need of.
You were made aware that we were about to lose the SAFER grant, the additional $624,000. We had asked for a waiver from FEMA because we used, you know, we told them we went into fiscal emergency, and that there was a hiring freeze across the city with the exception of police because they're so low in manpower. And basically, FEMA sent an email to Mr. Deere, myself, saying that the waiver has been denied. So if we don't hire the 5 that we agreed to on the grant, we stand to lose the $624,000. It's still remaining on the grant.
Yeah. So how many? I mean, are we down 5 or?
Yeah. From the grant. Now, our complement-wise, we're down 3, but the grant had 5. But the thing was when we went for the grant is the fact that myself and another captain could be retiring within the next year and a half, 2 years. So that would iron that out. But you know, like I said, we have 5 people in the grant. Chief Goodman left, Steve Miller left and moved to another state, and then the 3 that just retired in the last few months. And the grant is not up until February, so we stand to lose the rest of the grant, and we'll be put on a list probably from FEMA that we may not get any other grants for a while because we defaulted on this grant.
Mhm.
And the grant in the past is what's helped us purchase fire gear, workout equipment. They helped us purchase, what do you think? SCBA's.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I don't know what that stands. I don't know, you know. That's just something you might want to think about, because I don't know if that plan included that $624,000 or not. But if it did, if we're not intending to replace it, then we need to deduct that from the, you know, from the plan.
Yeah, that would be a question for the state auditors if they had that reimbursement as part of that. I don't know whether you know that or not, but
In fact, I don't think they've sent us any money, if I'm not mistaken, since, was it April?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Because of this going on, it is
You know, unfortunately, it's going to be a situation where that money is reimbursement and would be reimbursement for what, 3 people that are here now? Plus 2 of the new hires. We have to hire 5 to get reimbursed for 5 people's salaries, but we'd have to expend the revenue or expend the money to outfit them and go through that whole hiring process. So is that actually going to be a net gain doing that? That's going to be up to the state.
About $90,000 a year for a firefighter. So that's every year. So yeah, it would be a net gain. And the fact that even though our experience period ends in like February, any money that we have left we can still use. So you know, that takes that out a little further. But as far as complement wise, we're down 3. But as far as the safer grant, we're down 5. And like I said, when we went into this thing originally, it was because we knew we were going to have 5 people retiring. And, you know, well, by the time that those guys were on, it was going to be very close to, you know, covering for the 5 and keeping the complement. So basically they were going to pay, you know, 10% of the fire department's salary for a couple of years.
so,
I just thought I'd better point that out to you.
Yeah.
That's a big issue, I think, that it's not been taken into consideration.
so, but I think those 2 issues, I guess we have to send a letter to April and Anna Mary to see what, number one, whether that was included in their numbers, or if they were figuring on paying everybody out of the general fund and not counting on the reimbursement, which I would doubt would be the case. I would think they were counting on that reimbursement as part of the recovery plan. And then also, as far as additional emergency type expenses, you know, can we get their approval to move forward on council to change the appropriation to accommodate them? And then if they can give us their approval, then I would think then the next step we would make those changes, and then we would submit them to the board along with their approval, because they go to those meetings and you know, go to bat for it as a emergency change, you know, to the current plan and appropriations. So I think those are the 2 primary ones that would need to be looked at for changes. I don't know if there's anything else on here on this stuff here, Jim, that would fall in that area, or are these other ones close out some POs to kind of get to where you need to be, or?
It's going to be putting everything into the system and seeing what's left over. A lot of the stuff is taken care of.
By
but
the
not
changes,
everything.
yeah.
You know, it's you know, it's going to see which is covered that's on here and what's not. So. There are certain things on here that just are going to have to be moved to other areas.
Like I can tell you, like for us anyway, like my laptop, is that okay? Like for us, I could say that, like under the 0841, the 7200 annual dues for the two associations, it's not something that's going to make or break our everyday operation, you know. So essentially, I've pretty much written those off. I mean, those are things that were put in at the beginning of the year. For that, you know, for the upcoming year, we didn't get the POs for them, that's fine. Again, it's not something that's going to make or break us being able to, you know, perform our functions. The tactical medic class, as much as I would like to see us do it, we can wait till a later time possibly for that. But that has to do with, you know, active shooter and training the guys to respond to those kind of things. But when it comes right down to it, it's not going to affect our everyday operation. But when you look at the miscellaneous vendors for the quarter apparatus maintenance, those are the kind of things that concern me, because you know, if we have a problem with a piece of apparatus and that if you're going to fire truck, you know, little things that can potentially cause us not to be able to use that. You know, that's kind of stuff where you need the preventative maintenance. You know, because let's face it, our vehicles are, you know, they're older vehicles, so yeah, it's important to make sure we, you know, change the oil and change the fluids and stuff like that, because that's how we prolong the life of them for as long as we have. And I would say at one point, the PPE wasn't an issue, but now that we've waited so long, it now has kind of moved up, because we're going to start doing inspections of the PPE, and my fear is that if we fail some of the PPE, I can't send them. I'll have to put them on 8 hours, because I won't even be able to use them in fire suppression without the gear.
There's still second quarter and third quarter PPE inspection maintenance of $1,000 each. That's $2,000. Turnout repair $750 each for second, third, and fourth quarter. So second and third quarter is almost over. Those are $750 each. First quarter turnout replacement $520. So you've got some open POs that maybe we can look at shifting.
Right.
From, you know, that second and third quarter if you haven't used them.
One thing that we've done, I don't know if we're talking.
No, go ahead.
What we've done is one of our guys has been trained to repair our own gear. I just got a PO approved from our fire department fixed assets fund, so that we are going to hopefully save money that way. Because if we find something that's tore, we're going to have the proper sewing machine to do it, the proper threading to do it.
Oh, I saw that there.
So, you know, that's good for us.
So that's why there's a $3,000 industrial sewing machine. That's so that you don't have to send stuff out, and that should pay for itself.
Correct. That's going to allow us to buy the machine, and we've already got two guys trained to do it. So, you know, it's going to keep us self-sufficient, so we don't have to send that out. I can definitely look at those POs that we were discussing, see where they're at, and as part of where we are. Like I said, we're getting ready to start our inspections like this month of the PPE, which is but my concern more so is the fact that, I mean, the stuff that's still within the time frame is okay, we can repair that. But what concerns me is the stuff that is on the cusp of being outdated, because that's, you know, you can't use it, so if you get to the NFPA to use it.
Anyway, April and Anna Mary usually come down at least once every 2 weeks. We can next time they come down, maybe set up a meeting and have the chief come and talk to them, or?
Well, prior to that, what I was going to do was kind of put a little summary letter of a couple of the items, that we're possibly maybe need to look at as emergency. Put it on our letterhead, copy your letter to them as well. Just say, hey, just so they're aware of it in advance, so when they get here, we can kind of discuss with them, say we want to move forward on this. Do we have your blessing? They can at least look into it prior to getting here, and then we'll have to go back and then look into it. I think if we made them aware of some of these emergency aspects in advance, we can see about getting them on board to be able to make a change to submit to the planning board.
Like I said here, when I have 33 things that you have a list of things, necessities, and a list of things that you don't like that. Stuff like that, necessities, gives us some
I think part of the question too is going to be, are we going to be allowed to move money within the plan? Like, not increase the amount of it, but if we say, hey, we've got savings over here, can we move it from one 7200 key to another? Or are we restricted from doing that? I'm not sure. Now, anything that is a fund that was not one, is not the general fund and not one of the funds from fiscal emergency, we're allowed to do whatever we want. So we don't have to have the commission's permission to change something in the water fund or the garbage fund, right? So those things we can change any way we want, which is one thing that's not on this list that I think we should add, is the water refund. There's somebody that's due a $2,060 refund. I can add that on for tomorrow. Because it's Fund 50, we can do that.
There is an open one. Covered.
Yeah, it's on here. It's on that front page. The third one from the bottom.
All right. Gotcha.
I didn't catch that till now. Apparently somebody sent in a water refund request. Usually those are when the meter reader can't get in to read it, so they do an estimated one, and then they come back and actually read it a few months later, and they find out it's much lower than the estimate. If several months have gone by like that, some people could have paid a lot more.
So the Exhibit A here is going to put us in compliance with the plan.
Extra copy.
And then, but the expense report,
Right.
and that was based not on the plan numbers, but on our initial appropriation.
That's correct. And what I was trying to do by putting that in was to give an indication for some areas where the plan is below what our appropriations are, identify those areas where we have encumbrances that go over. And there's really not that many once we went through again and gave this updated one, go through the states, and there might be some POs where we decrease the outstanding PO, but it's, most of them fall within a reasonable number. One big one is on page 5 where that police and fire accrued liability. That's actually split up and put into the police and the fire keys, so that balance is down to 0.
Another one that jumped out on that health medical services. Appropriation operation was 167.10, and then the plan was like 305,700. 1020.
I know they're hiring someone new. I don't know, that might be,
What's her name? She just left, or hasn't left yet, or did we?
she did leave.
Yeah. That,
I'll look back on the plan and double check that one here after the meeting.
but that just kind of,
It does show like 120 and 130 both having big significant changes, so is it possible that they were combined?
They might have moved. You know, what they might have done is taken the person from 1030
yep,
and moved them up to that key.
Yeah.
That's what
it looks
taking
like.
them from environmental and moved them up.
So what I'm gonna do, because that's exactly what they did, we're just gonna change those back. And I will address that with them. When they do their plan, they'll oftentimes take what we have as multiple keys in appropriation and condense them into one unit. And so they may not be breaking out the health department into 3 keys the way it's done here,
Right.
which, as long as the total for the health department is the same, I think that's what they care about.
The other one that kind of, on 9/11 public lands and buildings, I guess they just decided that on the fixed charges,
That's your gas and electric bills.
yeah. That's why I didn't know if that was,
They're really against this idea of using that 7,400 key fixed charges for gas and electric. They think it should be mixed in with either the contractual or materials and supplies. But that's something that we're going to be addressing next year. They don't like the way we do gas and electric. And that's the other thing is moving the street lights. They want to move those into general fund also and out of streets. But not this year, because where they are in permissive tax and street and state highway, they're saying that that's public safety, that's not street maintenance and repair. So street lights are not part of street maintenance and repair. So it should be put under the general fund. Which is fine if they can figure out how to pay for it.
and, under 940 under dispatching. Just trying to, the debt service, is that for the equipment maintenance?
The radios.
For the radios?
Yeah.
I kind of wrote,
Yeah.
thought it was. All right.
That's where they put the radio $70,000. Yeah.
Kind of addressed like the earnings tax paybacks and refunds, that was
Correct.
pretty
That's
substantial.
why that number is so high.
Yeah.
And we don't show that in the general fund, we track that in its own fund.
It comes back to that.
Yeah. That's Fund 89.
All right.
So I can make those 3 changes. I'm going to fix the health, medical, and environmental, and add the water refund.
I think too, as far as in, if far as moving within the appropriations and within the plan, are we able to move from, like, say, a 7100 key to a 72 or a 7300 key within the plan, you think, or not? Or have you had any?
We're going to have to ask them on that, because I left a voicemail this afternoon concerning that issue with the new law secretary and being paid out of two different keys, being paid out of the law department and public lands and buildings, but public lands and buildings does not have anything in the 7100 key. But we could move it from a 7200 key to that, because the person is moving from a contractual employee to a regular employee. So it's just shifting, but I didn't get an answer back yet. But it would apply with exactly what you're talking about. The other area that we could change is if you look on page 3 of the insufficient appropriations, about 3/4 of the way down the page, there's a bunch of stuff from the water department. You'll see the key above it is 50-0853-7300. There is enough money in the water fund that we could increase the water appropriations to cover those.
Which ones are that?
This one, it starts with interstate furnish and install truck bed, vehicle 455. It says Public Works, and it's the third block down because it's not split up into water. That's all water.
Oh, I got you.
Those are water POs, and we've got enough in the certificate to cover an increase in appropriations in the water, and we don't have to have commission approval for that. So if you guys wanted to increase it to cover those, we could do that.
Yeah. If there's enough in there to do that.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
That would be 33,000, just under 33,500.
At least clear that up.
Well, it would allow them to get the new water meters they want to install, get a truck repaired, get a backhoe repaired.
Just trying to think of what else. I mean, I kind of went through the questions I had. Oh, one thing I did want to ask. So we are done with MedPace now, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they were paid off in June.
Yeah.
Feels good to be done with that.
Yeah. So, okay.
C9 Trust also, changing this covers the only two outstanding invoices we have, which came in, one at the end of July and one the first week of August, which is one's $1,400, the other one's $21,300. And that shows that we're paid up. It's dated 7/16 through 7/29.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's been a lot of discussion about there should still be outstanding invoices, but what Benovation is saying, that brings us up to date.
From what all indication, or that's all that was outstanding?
Correct. From the company that manages it. And that's built in, as well as any additional ones that we expect to get this year, that's built into the plan. So this payment was delayed by 2 weeks because of waiting for this, but everything else is paid up. Every bill we've gotten.
Yeah, that's good. Alright. Does anybody have any additional questions? So what we'll do is we'll present the Exhibit A with the other additional changes to have the appropriation change to match the plan totals. We'll send a letter to April and Anna Mary with some emergency requests and how to handle those, what would be the procedure for some of these emergency requests that we have that are needed in order to maintain the departments. And then and I also ask for a procedural thing of what, when this comes up in the future, what we need to do. And also, I guess in the same thing, I guess I can ask them about, are we able to, what's the procedure for manipulating within the appropriations from like a personnel key to a contractual or material supply key, if we're able to do that or not, or if everything has to stay within the 7,100, can only stay within 7,100. But I would think if it's within the plan that you'd be able to manipulate, but that, I guess we don't know, so we'll have to get an answer. So we'll ask those questions. And then also, I guess, the FEMA grant, we'll put that in there too, to ask them if they had that included in their numbers, the reimbursements from FEMA, or if they were just looking at straight general fund numbers and not counting on the reimbursement, which I would tend to believe they had to be figuring on the reimbursement, especially in the plan. So anyhow, those so if we all agree, that's what I'll put together, a letter, and have TA type it up, and we can do is forward, use a copy of it before it goes out. That way, if there's something you wanted to add to it, or if we had another question that comes up, we can put that in there as well. And then that way too, we'll find out when they'll be back down here, but at least they have the start of what we're looking to do, or our thought process, at least mine anyway, of how we can make emergency changes if need be in order to keep running here. So if that's all right with everybody, I'll write up a report and we'll report that out to council Tuesday. We'll have these changes made. We already have on the agenda the appropriation change ordinance. We just need to attach the Exhibit A to it and go from there. So does anybody have any other questions? Yeah. All right, then this meeting's adjourned. Thank you everybody for coming.